Well, now what to do with it? This is a 1964 Ward's Garden Mark Squire. It's basically the same as the 1964 Simplicity Landlord garden tractor. Really, the only difference is the paint and the decals. Well, it used to be the paint. Now you can't tell which is which from the paint. It's kind of more like spot. It's got an Alice Chalmer branded fender on one side, Simplicity on the other side on the back. And it's been painted over several times, obviously. I went and picked it up. Not really sure what I was going to do with it. It was close to home, and the price was right. And I do a lot with these old garden tractors, so I went and drug it in. You just don't see them come up close to home too often anymore, and I'm always needing a lot of parts. My problem is I'm the king of not parting stuff out. I take a lot of stuff like this. It's really rough, and I'll get it running and driving and going because they're simple. There's nothing to these things, so they're easy to get going again. But I don't know if I need another project or not right now. There's a lot of good parts here, though. The rear lift, the Model 23 Briggs cast iron engine, which is my favorite of the cast iron Briggs. Those and the 16 horse. And this thing does look really bad, but believe it or not, within a couple, 3-4 hours, it'll probably be running and driving. So that still leaves the cosmetics. There again, like I said, a lot of good parts: the engine, the rear lift, bevel gearbox, rear end. I even like to use these later model front axle mounts to put under the early 700 or 725s, kind of beef up those tractors' front ends just a little bit. Well, what to do with it, what to do. Be a cool little tractor, but I don't know. It's a piece of history. I mean, they're not making these anymore. These are from a different era. People were different, times were different. You could get front end loaders for these. Of course, all the normal attachments. Plows, discs, cultivators, grader blades. You get a mid-mount grader blade, of course, front dozers. There was just on and on. There was a lot of attachments. These were basically a homeowner's Bobcat before Bobcats, but and not just this, but any brand of the old riding tractors back in the 50s and 60s, and even into the 70s. I started getting watered down pretty good in the 70s, but just really cool stuff. There's a heck of a difference between a riding lawnmower and a riding tractor, a garden tractor. And initially they were called riding tractors in the 40s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, because you had walking tractors that came out in the early 1900s. And they, as times progressed a little bit, they built them as riding tractors, and so they were initially called riding tractors. When Simplicity came out with their first riding tractor in 1959, they built it as a riding tractor, and they marketed it. Well, it's a good thing I can't talk for the video. They marketed it for even truck farmers and things, truck gardeners. You could get like a 5 or 6 foot wide gang of reel mowers for them. Just really cool stuff. And a lot of the early stuff was derived from the walking tractors. That rear axle, that rear end there, is basically a Model W walk-behind Simplicity rear end that they bolted a frame on, put the engine out front, and then they set our seat over the top of the rear end, and now you could ride and plow your garden or grade or whatever you wanted to do. So pretty cool stuff. Anyway, a lot of work there. A lot of good parts, but if I take it apart, it's one last Squire left. And the Simplicity Alice guys, they like the Squire versions. They seem a little harder to find maybe, and for whatever reason, they're very, very popular. So I don't know. We'll kick it around a while. before I decide what I'll do with it. But anyway, 1964 Simplicity Landlord. It's a 1964 Ward's Garden Work Squire 9. Squire 9. 9 horsepower is what the engine was rated at. Made a lot of torque though. It'd make a modern aluminum 12 or 14 horsepower engine. Wish it hadn't messed with it. Good strong little machines. Anyway, there it is, and there's the debate with it. Do I put her out back somewhere, cover her up, and decide what to do, or take it apart and put the parts in the building, or do I put it inside and see if I can get it fired up and running so it could be moved around? All right, well, thanks for listening to me ramble, and if you give me a thumbs up, subscribe. If you don't like it, tell me to quit making the idiotic videos. All right, have a good day, all. Bye.